So the P is for plan and position. And so part of that plan is to say how bad a news this is and how do I want to approach this. I call this the Clint Eastwood thing. Clint Eastwood is the director, right? So you're the director of this scene that you're about to have when you're giving bad news. This stuff works for conflict resolution when you have an angry patient, which we deal with all the time. It's the same concept. So George Herb did that very well. He did what people didn't notice was the first R is called review. The number one rule of breaking bad news is never, ever break news suddenly. You'll always break bad news gradually. That doesn't mean you're going to prolong it out for the next 10 or 20 minutes and then say, oh, yeah, your wife died. In most medical schools today and residency programs, they're teaching an acronym called SPIKE. And I won't go over what SPIKE stands for, but it was created in 1999 by some really great oncologists. One of the things that SPIKE tells you to do is SPIKE also recognizes that you never want to blind somebody with bad news, but it tells you, it teaches that you should break bad news, prepare people for bad news by saying, I have bad news. So if you're walking into a doctor's office and you're waiting for your pathology report or your blood work, and the doctor says, I have bad news, that's not preparing them for the bad news. That is literally the bad news. So what happens to your fight or flight when a doctor says, I have bad news, you stop hearing, right? You get this big adrenaline flush. So what we want to do is show that you have bad news and not tell. And what do I mean by that? By doing the proper review like Herb did. Start from the beginning, even though the person may know why you drew all the blood. In this case, it was just a routine blood work, but perhaps someone's coming in for their lung biopsy results or they had a bone marrow. You can start from the beginning again. What I really liked what Herb did is he said, I wish your wife were here. Okay. And what you just did, Herb, there was you foreshadowed that this was going to be a serious conversation. So, because subconsciously the patient was saying, this must be a serious conversation. Why was he wishing my wife were here also? So that was really excellent that you did that. And just go over a little bit from the beginning of what you did. You did that very well, Herb. This is why we do it. This is what we found. One of the words that I would say that we can use more in general is two words that are really great is concerned and worried. Okay. So I always say doctors should never use the word think. Think means you don't know. And you didn't use that word, Herb, but as a little extra tip is I looked at the preliminary results. And after looking at those results, I'm very concerned that your son, is likely to have diabetes. And I don't want a doctor who thinks because he doesn't know, but who doesn't want a doctor who's concerned or worried? That's the kind of doctor that I want. I'm concerned that you have diabetes. I don't know for sure, which is exactly what you were trying to say in that improv. And further studies are going to need to be done, but I'm concerned enough that we need to deal with this right now. So that's just one of the notes that I put there. So that's the first. You use that review, and then you use the proper body language, which Herb talked about, leaning forward, making eye contact. And then that's the O is observe. Physicians were trained from day one on how to observe patients, how to see their gait, how they speak, what can I pick up, shaking their hand, see if it's a weak handshake. But we really don't realize that they're making 3 million assessments per second on our body language. And one of the things that is really interesting because it's fascinating about medicine, about verbal and nonverbal language, is that if your verbal language and your nonverbal language are in sync, the physician can say everything correctly, say all the right words, concern, do the review, say they're sorry, all that, but has a casual body language. The human brain is going to have two conflicting messages. He's saying the right things, but he's leaning back casually like he's talking about the Miami Dolphin game. And almost always that will create anger and distrust. And really, that's what this is all about. Medicine, whether you're giving bad news or you're having a routine patient experience with routine office visit, it's all about building that trust right now. So it's really important to do all that. And then that's where that second R comes into. So the G is gradual. We talked about that. If it's not bad news, the G stands for genuine. There's a routine office visit.